In 2012, a young software developer uploaded a small piece of code to an online forum. It wasn't flashy. It didn't look like a $1 billion invention. But the tool solved a real problem, improving video connections so calls would work better on slow connections. Within months, similar techniques began appearing in commercial products. Situations like this happen constantly, not always dramatically, but always publicly, because ideas spread fast, often much faster than the legal system designed to protect them. Modern economies depend on innovation, yet innovation depends on incentives. Intellectual property law is society's attempt to engineer those incentives by deciding who gets exclusive control over useful ideas and how long they get it. Mechanically, patents create temporary monopolies. In most countries, investors receive around 20 years of exclusive rights from the filing date. During this period, they could block competitors from producing similar technologies. The pharmaceutical industry offers one of the clearest examples of how this mechanism shapes reality. According to the industry studies, developing a new drug can cost over $2 billion when accounting for failed trials and regulatory delays. Clinical tests alone can take 7 to 10 years. For researchers and investors, patents make this level of risk financially inconceivable, but monopoly pricing has measurable consequences. When the hepatitis C drug Silbosavir was first introduced into the United States, treatment courses were priced at around $84,000 per patient. Manufacturing costs were estimated by some public researchers to be a small fraction of that. For the company, high prices helped recoup massive research incentives and reward shareholders. For healthcare systems, it creates immediate budgetary strain. This illustrates the central mechanical trade-off. Intellectual property can accelerate scientific discovery while simultaneously restricting short-term access. Economists often note this tension between innovation incentives and allocation efficiency. For individuals, these abstractions become personal very quickly. In surveys conducted in the United States, millions of patients reported skipping prescribed medications due to cost. Patent-protected drugs are significantly part of that dynamic. The legal architecture designed to reward invention becomes, in daily life, a factor shaping medical decisions. In technological industries, intellectual property also influences competition in measurable ways. During the peak of the smartphone patent wars around 2011 to 2014, companies filed hundreds of lawsuits across multiple continents. At one point, a jury ordered Samsung to pay more than $1 billion in damages to Apple for design and utility patent infringements, though later appeals adjusted that amount. Behind the headlines was a structural reality. In 2013, major smartphone manufacturers collectively held tens of thousands of active patents, covering everything from antenna replacements to touchscreen gestures. For a startup founder trying to introduce a new device, entering this landscape could require navigating complex licensing agreements before selling a single unit. Intellectual property in this context becomes part of market entry costs, a gatekeeping mechanism that shapes which innovations reach consumers. Patent enforcement can also create unexpected burdens for small businesses. Research by US government agencies have estimated that tens of thousands of companies have faced patent litigation threats for non-practicing entities. For many defendants, the median legal cost of defending a patent lawsuit can exceed several $1 million. This financial asymmetry explains why settlements often occur even when claims are contested. Mechanically, intellectual property rights become tradable legal instruments, assets whose value is derived partially from the cost of challenging them. Creative industries present a parallel system with different economic dynamics. Global recording music revenues exceed $30 billion annually in the early 2020s, much of it driven by streaming platforms. Copyright law determines how this revenue is distributed among performers, songwriters, labels, and distributors. But defining originality is not always straightforward. In a landmark legal dispute related to the legacy of Marvin Gaye, a US jury concluded that stylistic similarities between songs justify substantial financial damages. The decision sent shockwaves throughout the music industry. Producers began consulting legal experts not only about their lyrics and melodies, but also about rhymes, patterns, and instrumental atmospheres. Here, intellectual property law influenced the creative process itself, shaping what artists felt was safe to produce. In the United States and much of Europe, protections last creators' life plus 70 years. These extended terms have delayed public domain releases of global recognized characters like Mickey Mouse. From an economic standpoint, longer protection increases expected lifetime revenue streams. From a social standpoint, it postpones the moment when stories become freely reusable cultural building blocks. Intellectual property thus shapes the tempo of cultural evolution. At the international level, intellectual property affects development patterns. Agricultural biotechnology firms have patented genetically engineered seeds used across millions of hectares worldwide. Supporters argue these innovations have increased crop yields and improved resilience. Critics point out that patented seeds often require annual purchase agreements. International trade agreements have progressively strengthened IP enforcement standards. This reflects the systemic role intellectual property plays in global economic hierarchy and technological diffusion. Now a new measurable shift is underway. Artificial intelligence tools are being adopted at an extraordinary speed. Some generative AI platforms reach over 100 million users within months of launch. Courts and regulators are now confronting unprecedented questions about ownership. The answer will determine whether intellectual property continues to function as a system for rewarding individual creators or evolves into a framework governing collaborative human-machine innovations. Intellectual property is often described as a grand social compromise. We accept temporary limits on the free use of ideas, in the hope that those limits will generate more ideas in the future. History suggests that the system has produced extraordinary scientific and cultural progress. It has also produced monopolies, legal battles, and persistent inequality. In an era where economic power increasingly depends on information, the rules governing intellectual property may quietly determine who gets to shape the future. But ultimately, the question is not who owns ideas, it is who gets to build upon them.